Hello everybody, my name is Kennedy Johnston and I am a Montana dietetic intern, and I'm here today to shed some light on a very hot topic in the world of food waste right now, and that is expiration dates on packaged foods. Like many of you, I'm sure, I grew up under the impression that if a food had passed its expiration date, it was probably spoiled and it might make me sick. Not until just recently did I actually learn that those food expiration dates aren't even mandated by the federal government, but we'll get back to that in a little bit. Today's topic is really important to me because I strive every day to minimize food waste in my life and in my own way. And according to the USDA, here in America, we waste a devastating 133 billion pounds of food every year. That correlates to between 30 and 40% of America's total food supply. Multiple sources, including the National Resources Defense Council and the Harvard Food Law and Policy Clinic, agree that a huge contribution to this cause and these numbers are the disposal of perfectly good food items due to confusion surrounding the dates on the printed package.
Chances are, if you pick up your nearest box, jar, or packaged food product, there's going to be a phrase and a date that are supposed to give consumers an idea of when this product should be consumed by.
Currently, there are around 10 dating phrases used in America on food products. Sell by, best before, expires on, even use or freeze by. I'm sure you can imagine the confusion that this might generate for people who are just trying to decide if that lunch meat is still good or not. And in order to better understand where these dates and phrases even come from and what's being done to stop the confusion, we have to take a step back and look at where they came from in the first place.
Some say that it's all thanks to Al Capone's brother. Legend has it the famous mobster sibling lobbied through the Illinois milk industry for packing dates on milk bottles after somebody he knew became ill after drinking spoilt milk. And while that side of the story remains legendary, thanks to a report done in 2013 by the National Resource Defense Council, we do know sometime in the mid-1970s that the question of food preservation and freshness came to the forefront of the minds of America. It was at this time that the old version of dating products, called closed dating, was phased out for a new way of dating products called open dating. And while closed dating uses symbols and codes that were virtually undecipherable to customers, open dating employs a simple date, complete with a month, day, and a year, that allows customers to make an educated decision on when a product is safe to consume or not. Now, through the 1970s, many different sectors of the government banded together in order to propose legislation surrounding a standardized dating procedure, yet none gained enough traction to be written into law. And by this point, many state governments had already adapted policy to preempt this movement and had already begun implementing them within their markets. This pattern continued through the decades, even up until right now. Even today, there has still not been federal legislation passed which standardizes food date practices across the 50 states. This has perpetuated the ability for states and even cities, in the absence of state legislature, to choose whether or not to create their own food dating policies. As you might imagine, this creates a chaotic system where food manufacturers are typically the ones who are deciding, based on their own preferences, the dates and phrases that go on products. However, there is voluntary forms of guidance, such as the Uniform Open Dating Regulation Handbook, a partnership between the National Institutes of Standardization and Technology, along with the National Conference on Weights and Measures. This handbook models regulations based on research surrounding open dating procedures in the hopes that states will voluntarily adopt some of their recommendations. These might include keeping only 2 out of the 12 phrases, a sell-by for perishable items, and a best if used by date for foods with longer shelf life. Other uniform open dating regulations will also allow food to be sold past their expiration dates, as long as the quality has not diminished significantly and they are adequately marked, visibly out of date. In 2013, 5 states had already introduced policy to adopt the latest version of the Uniform Open Dating Regulation Handbook. Many other states have adopted earlier versions of this handbook, and yet still some states choose to just pick which parts of the handbook they'd like to follow for their own regulations. A great example of the instability of this system was in 2004, when Walmart decided to preemptively require a best if used by date on all food products. While this intention was well-meaning, it ultimately resulted in a lot of edible, non-perishable food being discarded well before the quality had even diminished.
In 2016, yet another advance was made for federal legislature surrounding the dating of foods in the U.S. H.R. 5298, better known as the Food Date and Labeling Act of 2016, was proposed to the House as a means of addressing consumer food waste by standardizing date phrasing to include only best if used by for quality and expires on for safety. This bill also calls the FDA and the USDA to establish a formal guidance surrounding the quality and safety dates for the food products, and it also allows markets to sell food past its expiration date. Unfortunately, in 2018, this bill is still being reviewed by the House and has yet to make it out of the committees for Energy, Commerce, and Agriculture. And in 2017, an initiative led by the Food Marketing Institute and Grocery Manufacturers Association aims to also standardize the phrasing to a quality phrase and a safety phrase. While this initiative is still voluntary, it shows future promise in the food manufacturing industry for taking ownership of standardizing dating practices. While this all sounds great, there is some pushback from the food industry surrounding these new regulations and initiatives. Some say that the government assuming that people can't tell when food is spoiled is patronizing, while others find it unnecessary, and some supermarkets are already adopting new phrasing practices. While the food and political systems work out the details, it's really hard not to imagine the impact that a change in our food dating practices might have on the environment. Not only could it reduce the amount of physical food waste, along with wasted resources in the form of energy and packaging, but it could also lower the cost of food production and the cost of food. These changes might help people feel more confident in purchasing and consuming foods without having to second guess the meaning of an arbitrary date. It could also inspire them to rely more on their senses to tell them when food has exceeded its lifetime. So what do you guys think? Should we be simplifying the system, or should we leave things the way that they are and just teach people better food usage and storage practices? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. You can read more about food dating and policy, systems, and in the environment by following these links. I'll put them in the info box. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day.